Happy Chanukah, everyone. Rabbi Yosef Karo, author of the Shulchan Aruch, popularized what is now a well-known question about the length of Hanukkah. Why do we celebrate 8 nights of Hanukkah when, if you think about it, there are actually only 7 nights that there was a miracle which took place? After all, when the Maccabees entered the Beit HaMikdash, they found a pitcher of oil sufficient to light one night. And so, in fact, the first night was not really a miracle. They had enough oil to light that very night. The miracle appears to only have taken place in the subsequent nights, night 2 through 8, such that really we should be celebrating only days 2 through 8. We should only really be celebrating 7 days of Hanukkah instead of 8. This question is a historical question that many have given answers to over the centuries. In fact, a book has been published not too long ago that lists no less than 1,000 different answers to this very question. What I'd like to do is I'd like to suggest an answer by re-examining the very nature of what a miracle means. When we think of miracles, we tend to associate that what's so unique about a miracle is the supernatural event which takes place right in front of us. The splitting of the sea, Kriyat Yamsuf, that event itself was supernatural. That's what's so amazing about the miracle. Or in Hanukkah, the oil lasting for 8 nights when it should have only lasted 1 night. We focus on the event itself. But in reality, God always has the ability to change the laws of nature. God can always create a miracle whenever he would like to. After all, if God wrote the rule book, if God wrote the rules of nature, then he can break them at his will. The Gemara in Tanit, in fact, relates the opinion of Rabbi Hanina that God, if he would like to, can, just as he makes oil burn, so too he can make vinegar burn. There's no difference in God's mindset between these two events. He controls nature, and so he can dictate the laws of nature as however he would like them. And so what's unique about a miracle then is not so much the very existence of the miracle, but is rather God's willingness to make that miracle happen. The very fact that God wants this miracle to happen, to break the laws of nature that God created, that's what's so special. And why does God break the laws of nature? It's because he wants to do something for us. Because we, the Jewish people, have a special relationship with God. And by dint of that special relationship, God is doing us a favor, saving us, and doing that miracle on our behalf. In effect, then, a miracle is actually a fairly good representation of our very close bond, our covenantal relationship with God. And so when we celebrate a miracle like on Hanukkah, we're not actually necessarily celebrating the miracle itself that takes place, but rather what we're celebrating is God's willingness to create that miracle, that special relationship that we have with God, and God's willingness on its behalf to do something special for us. And this miracle, God's willingness to change the laws of nature, that took place already on the 25th of Kislev, on the first day of Hanukkah. And that willingness to change the laws of nature continued throughout the 8 days of Hanukkah. So we celebrate, in effect, 8 days of Hanukkah, not because we're celebrating when the miracle itself took place, that itself may have only taken place over 7 days, but God's willingness to change the laws of nature, that began already on day 1 and lasted 8 days. And so we celebrate 8 full days of Hanukkah to celebrate God's willingness to change nature on our behalf. And so likewise, when we reflect on the nature of Hanukkah, we're not simply reflecting on a miracle that took place over 2,000 years ago, but we're really reflecting on a special relationship we have with God. And so we recite Ala Nisim throughout these days of Hanukkah. What we are really doing is we're not thinking back to that past miracle, but we keep thinking about the present relationship we have with God, a relationship which exists today just as much as it did in the past, and for that we are very thankful. We keep saying thank you over and over to remind us of that relationship we have with God and our appreciation of it. Chanukah Sameach.